Hi, Thorsten.
Hi, Arno. Welcome in our little boat here, which is lying in the harbor of Stockholm here. And it's a beautiful place, which I like very much. And these Nordic countries here played an important role in my life here. So perhaps we can share some experiences of this here during our little talk here.
Absolutely. So just for the audience, I'm Dr. Anu Mehta and I'm a PhD. And I want people to know who Thorsten is. So Thorsten, if you can just introduce yourself briefly. Thank you.
Yes. In this interview, I have one role. I am one of the administrative directors of Meta Health International, CIC. And Meta Health is very interesting for me and made me learn something more about my life and how I am in my inside working and taking my unconscious decisions. So I became excited of Meta Health also and educated myself beside my administrative work as a Meta Health practitioner. And just now I'm focusing, of course, on the administrative work, but I like to have some coachings in between with interesting persons, and it's very exciting to work with Meta Health.
Thank you so much, Thorsten, for talking with me today. The whole idea of this talk and for everybody is that we always see the faces and we make our own stories behind those faces. But I really want you to know who Thorsten is. I really want him to be present, and he says, oh, I'm just doing this. And that's really not true. We think we're just doing this. He's holding a very, very important position right now. And not just that, he must be very passionate about it to hold it with so much of love. And how do you say, sometimes what we hold with love becomes our identity. And in many, many ways, that's his identity. So, Thorsten, why don't you take us through your little bit around your childhood? Who's your mom, dad, how many brothers, sisters you have? Because, you know, when I see you like this, I just feel you were always like this. That can't be true. So let's go back to the beginning.
Well, yes. I would say my childhood in a way was not so very exciting. I grew up only with my mother, no sisters, no brothers. My mother had to work all day round, so it was very early that I came to the kindergarten, and interaction with other people so became part of my life this way necessarily. But in my childhood, I was quite shy and so wanted to be for myself. If I had my corner and my pieces to play with, I was really satisfied. And in a way, this developed also under school time. So my companions have seen me always as a kind of nerd and who was specialized in his things. So, but otherwise a friendly person to interact with, so without bigger conflicts. And it was interesting to hear about this. I recontacted with school comrade in the last years. And we talked about the background, and she told me how she had seen me during school time. It was quite interesting. So, because I had not considered before about this, when you're living your childhood, you live it as is, and you're not considering about this. It's coming in later times of your lives that you are looking for. What has happened really here? What was this? What affected you in a way? And how did you react on this? What I learned later through Meta Health is that social contacts were more important for me in my childhood than I was aware of. Because as I explained, I was a child who seemed to be satisfied to be with himself. But I had, for example, developed hay fever when I was 11 or 12. This developed in a situation where we could not spend the summer as we were used before, my mother and me at the beach, and 3 or 4 weeks together. This was something which was important for me, because if you have a mother who was working all day, coming back in the evening very tired, eating and then sleeping at the TV, so you're missing some social contacts with your nearest person. And well, this summer it was that my mother had medical problems and had to be to the hospital. So she could not be with me, and she agreed with a colleague who was living at the land site that I should spend my summer there. So I felt totally lonely. So nobody there. I looked out there, other children playing there, but it was not my environment. I feel totally as an alien. And it was this situation where I then developed the next year the hay fever. So when it became summer and the smell of the land site came to me, I reacted on this with the nose and dropping eyes and so on. And it was later when I was together with my partner Cora that we could analyze this. This was a kind of warning signal for me. No, let's see that this summer is not going to the wrong direction. I will do everything to show that I'm not satisfied with a solution like this. And I want to have my summer as is, at the sea, at the beach. And as soon as I were at the beach in the summer, it was totally okay for me. So the symptoms were away immediately, but it repeated every summer, and it continued in my life, and it was self-going in a way, became part of my personality, so to say. So this is an interesting aspect of my childhood.
Thank you, Thorsten. That's, I can feel in my heart that I'm today meeting Thorsten.
Yeah.
I am truly meeting Thorsten because we just think people are who they are and they're always born like that. But they aren't. There's a whole story behind them. So when you saw your mom working so hard and not being there must have been decisions that you made in life. There must have been certain belief systems that you created. And Meta is all about the beliefs that we hold, the decisions that we make, and the value systems that we create for ourselves. And even if there is nobody around us, that's still going on in the back of our head. Well, so could you tell us what was going on at the back of your head and what was going on in the 11-year-old's mind, and how did he operate?
So I think it was quite early that I decided for myself that family in this way, how I experienced it, was a father which was only existing on the paper, paying 1 time a month money. He was in duty to pay to me, but otherwise no contact. And with a mom only working to keep this going around. So it was very early in this time that I had the experience, this is not a real family and this is not what I want to have. In this way, I decided for myself, there will be a very high threshold for me before I decide to get children with a person. And I wanted to have a very safe feeling. Who is the person? Is it the right person? Can we rely on this if we are together, that we are together the next 20 years, and to enable, if we would have children, that they grow up in a way with a complete family. And in this way, interestingly, I never found this partner who was this kind that we would start to build up a family. And so this was my decision to concentrate more on my own and on my social interactions, and give to the world something even outside of the family. So I liked very much to support people who felt, for my part, in a way disadvantaged from life, to help them to grow up, to find their way. And this was my kind of engagement, a kind of reaction on the family living which I experienced in my childhood.
I feel very grateful to know those parts of you. that really made you. Uh, could you take us through your, as a child grows, and you rightly said the family, but in the teenage years and as a young man,
Yeah.
what did you look out for? What was it that motivated you? What is it that made you kind of find yourself? Because those are the times when we are growing up and we think, oh, we can be independent, but we don't need this thing and we don't need that. So, how were you like as a young man and as a teenager?
There was one important thing which I learned about me when we had the last year of our school education before the student exam. And we organized travels to other countries, and I was with a group from the French-speaking course traveling to France. And there I learned something what was important for me. I'm very curious about other people, about other cultures, how people are living. And I don't want to have it presented by somebody, by a local guide, but I want to dive into the life of people in other parts of the world. And this experience was a starting point for me to travel quite excessively. So to go to a part to look for a place where to live, which is not high standard, but like normal living. Today you would use something like Airbnb. In my times you didn't have it, so I looked out for hostels or simple living where I could be there, and then dive in just into the quarter where I was to see how are people living, what is the smell of this here, and so I learned I like France very much, and I learned lots about that France is much more than eating cheese and drinking wine, and that there are lots of nationalities and cities in this country here, which also live their life here. And I liked it very much to go to the African quarters because they spread a lot of happiness and good feeling there, and there were lots of good tastes around you everywhere. So this is something that I'm still curious about, that I would like to visit Africa sometime and learn more about these people here. And but my experience was that I had very good contact to African people during my life then from this experience from traveling. Later on, it was not only France, but the other European countries. And as I grown up in northern Germany, it was quite near that I also visited Sweden. And when I came the first time to Sweden, it was a feeling, oh, I'm feeling home here in a way. Interesting. I've never felt this before. I had the feeling I'm like, yes, traveler without roots. And in this country, it was in a way different. It felt a little like my country, and so it was very important for me and continued. And as I have told you, I'm now sitting here in Stockholm on my boat. So since 20 years ago, me and my partner Cora live in Scandinavia and live here at this place, which would express in the best way my understanding of living also. To be near to nature, to be free, but also to have good social interactions. So that's the three things which you find here in Scandinavia in a combination, which I like very much and which made Scandinavia my home now.
Wow, so it looks like Scandinavia really moved your heart and touched it in
Yes.
many, many ways. So what, according to you, is freedom? You said, I feel free in Sweden. So what really is freedom according to you?
Freedom is first of all that I can decide myself on my life. And this is also an experience which I made during my life before, which made this so important. When I was ready with school, I started studying, and I had originally the idea that I wanted to start study medicine and become a doctor. But it's a long period to do this year. And although I was quite good in school, it was this bit not good enough to come into the study directly. So we had to make a work around, and it was my father who had to pay for me even in this time when studying, who pressed me to do something which should be ready when I'm 25, because it was his duty to pay until I was 25, and he wanted to have it ready. So to study medicine would not have worked in this way. I felt pressed. So I looked a little what's besides there, and I thought pharmacy might be the interesting solution for me. And but in the time, I had to learn that this was a decision which obviously was not the right one. And after studying, we had our practice in public pharmacies for 1 year. And I came into the first pharmacy and immediately got my first conflict with my colleagues, because well-educated, self-thinking, I want to take over and create it in the way which I think is the right way, just for this year. And then you have colleagues who tell you, well, you are only practicing here, so you're the last one in the hierarchy, so to say. This made a conflict. So I took this pharmacy only 1 month. Then we decided to change, so I had to look for another one. And then I got some first difficulties, because in my hometown in Kiel there were at about 80 pharmacies, and the last one was the one who could offer something for me. But this pharmacy was in a way special, because they were also serving for the university hospital. So this would be half service for be in contact with people and selling to people, and the other half work in the clinic department and not to have contact with people. This was really not good for me, and within a few weeks, also learning about that working in the clinic department would mean very much stress and working very fast. So I developed overfunction of the thyroid. So after 4 weeks, my hands were shaking, and so that some customers said to my boss, "Oh, here's something wrong. You should check the health of your man here at the desk." And so my boss was very friendly. He sent me to a very good expert of thyroid diseases already the next day. The result was so okay. I was going on high fire with a heartbeat of about 120 when calm. So incredibly, and so they wanted to keep me in the hospital. I said, no, I want to have my freedom and so on. We do it directly here in my place. And they told me, you cannot work in this way. I came back to the boss. The boss said to me, okay, you're fired. So then I got the experience. I have a disease and I have no economic background at the moment. Worst situation for the first feeling. But it started for me with creativity. So immediately the same afternoon, I went to some authorities and to the insurance and talked about them about the situation. And in the evening, I had the feeling, okay, I have safeguard basic income. This will work in a way. But the positive is, now you have time for yourself. Now you can see what has gone wrong here. What happened here, really? Why is it as it is? And then I found a doctor who was very interesting, because he was interested in homeopathy. And we talked about this from this homeopathic aspect. And I dived down also in this background and learned somewhat about my personality, why I've reacted like this here. And so I decided for me that Yodam would be a good thing to take with just to come back and balance again. So I talked with him about it. He said, good, if you're feeling, do so. And this was a success. So it took me 4 weeks, and I could be quit with this traditional medicaments. I only made it into homeopathy. And then in summer, after a few months, I was rebalanced again. And this was really feeling good in a way. And then when I continue looking for a place to finalize my practice, I found a pharmacy, interestingly, with a boss who was also interested in homeopathy. So you made a little longer way in your life and did not go the direct way, but the solution was a perfect one. This was the experience was very important for me. But I also then asked myself, is pharmacy everything you want to do the rest of your life? The clear answer on this was no, of course not. And take it now to earn money, but live the life as you want to live it. So I decided to start, beside working as a pharmacist, later a second study in oceanography, marine physics. And I like the atmosphere to be outside on sea with the research vessels and the people there. You know, on board of ships, people are in a way easier to handle because they are more near to nature. There are more things which are really important. And all the social difficulties which you experience on shore are somewhat minor on a ship. Even if you can, of course, develop situations on a ship where you see the real nature of people you did not wait to be. This can also happen in this situations when nature is pressing you. But in a way, this was interesting for me, and tried some years to do this parallel. It showed for me when working with pharmacy was quite successful in a way. I had decided not to be on a regular contract on one place. I didn't want to have my own pharmacy, but there was a way in between, because in Germany, where I've grown up, pharmacies are owned by single persons. So there are no big companies behind this that time. It's a single pharmacy, a pharmacist who owns his own pharmacy. But the situation is, if this person's becoming sick or needs to have holidays and so on, there has to be another person to coming there, be there instead. And this was my niche when working. So I was hopping from one pharmacy to the next, to the next, to the next. And every time when a boss could not be present in his pharmacy, I came there instead. This was quite successful, but it included also for me to leave my home 5 o'clock in the morning and come back Saturday and late afternoon. So private life was minimized in a way. I did not find time for the second study. So after a few years, I canceled the second study, and instead, I decided for me to balance this way of working in the pharmacy. I should travel more. So I found this makes, again, so working a few weeks very hard, then having free a few weeks, deciding, okay, I go to a totally other place and dive into the life of other people, the way which I liked so much when it started, when I came to France when I was 18. And so I lived this life in a way. And after some years, nearly 10 years working in pharmacies, I asked myself the question, is this really the stuff what I want to do? And because I have seen, I was very optimistic I would be able to help people when working in a pharmacy. And in fact, I made quite a lot of night services, and I have never seen so many people who were depending of medicaments prescribed by doctors who did not think about the situations. And it was one evening when I was out in town here, and I was in the discotheques quarter in my hometown Kiel, and I saw the dealer standing there selling their stuff, and I was asking myself, what's the real difference between this guy and you? Yeah, from the effect for the people, for the buyers, it's nearly the same. And this created a kind of ethical conflict for me. So therefore, I decided I would need to have a break, and in '98, I decided to no longer to continue to work for pharmacies, but to be out in the summer again to Stockholm here. I was 3 months here, was working as a volunteer for the boat culture project, what was organized within the cultural capital here in Stockholm. So, and this gave me totally new impressions for me and made also that I changed my life totally and thought about the alternative to work on ships as a skipper. And this way I came back from Sweden to Germany. I was a skipper of a little sailing boat at about 50 meters long. Sailing was at about 6 to 8 persons on board, and responsible for my own space here, everything working on board, my responsibility. Felt good in a way, and so this was a kind of right decision to do so. And this winter, I went to the navigation course in Hamburg, and that was a place where I met Cora for the first time. Also sailing on a traditional vessel and educating herself to become a skipper. And so we shared the course, and with some time more, we shared more in our life. And now we are together for more than 20 years. We stopped counting it at the moment, so it's quite a long time. So in this way, it showed again, sometimes you need to have a break and to think about your situation and reorganize life and see what is important.
What I liked about what you said, number of things. It may be a long route, but at the end of it, things were perfect.
And this is something which is a characteristic of my person, because I'm joking always. I'm born on a Monday, so this means I'm a very happy and sunny person. Just instead of this, not born on Sunday, but on Monday. And this is generally my situation. So things might go wrong, but you can have a look on it from the happy side and see that it will work out in a way. And this is an experience which has been repeating for me time over time over time. So this is something what I in fact can rely on. If things go wrong, just wait, let's see why it is like this. Usually it's then going the right way. And so that's typical for me, how to see on life and how also to handle things which are problematic in a way by the things. This I didn't want to have just now in this situation, but now it occurred, so let's see what to do with it.
I feel very motivated when you say you never gave up. I feel very motivated when you say it may take long, but you reach where you need to reach.
Yeah, this is important for me. In a way, I never give up. I only change strategies.
Absolutely. I also hear that it's very important for you to handle the situation all by yourself, and that makes you feel free, more free than if you had to interact with too many people, because somewhere for you, that seems like a very important part of your personality, which is actually brilliant, which means you are someone who can be a leader and is a leader in its own way. To not give up, to be able to change, to be able to continue to move, and to be able to continue looking at life and, almost like changing with the wind and moving with the wind and going with the wind and connecting with the nature.
Yes, and sometimes deciding now it's time to take a break and to cast anchor and wait how the situation will develop. So this is also an important part. Sometimes you need this stop over to see what's going on here. If you're only pressing on go to a goal, and then sometimes you get the feeling, do I really have ground under my feet, or I'm just flying in the air like the comic figures which we had in our childhood when they are running there and suddenly, oh, nothing down here. And so to have a break is also important for me. I, for myself, say break is the mother of success. And this is the experience which I made in these years, when problematic situations were coming up. It's a signal, take a break, slow down, just see how it will develop. And I think it's a very important experience also for people who are having developing diseases which are long ongoing. It's a kind of signal for you. And of course, it's depending on the disease, but people who decide, for example, to start hiking then just to come back to nature, for earthing down to ground, make usually the experience that diseases redevelop back to a healthy state. And this is an important experience, and I think it's also for myself. If something is going wrong and I'm feeling signals, so it's time to take a stop. And it's in fact, it's until now. So if I'm feeling stressed too much, I'm feeling my thyroid. It's becoming bigger in a way. I feel that there is too much energy in my body, which is only vibrating here and not knowing what to do with it. And then I know it's time to take a break and to analyze the situation a little more from beside, not to sit inside the wheel and going around with the wheel, but instead sitting outside looking what's going on here, really. Is this the right way, or is there something we should change and make in another way?
So, Thorsten, I have one very interesting question for you, and that is, if Thorsten of today was to look back at Thorsten, who was 11 years old, who couldn't meet his mom that summer.
Once more, pity.
Who could not meet his mom that summer when he was having hay fever.
Yeah.
If this Thorsten today is going to talk to that Thorsten who's very little, at 11 years of age, sitting, waiting for his mom, what would today's Thorsten say to the 11-year-old Thorsten? Thank you.
He suddenly would probably would have said, your traveling adventure is beginning today. Because you see, the situation is quite similar to the situation I've selected then myself later when traveling to places, just placing me in a place where I was a total alien. And so I would have said, okay, let's try it. Just have a look around. What are these Charles Forward funds, and how do you get a contact? But as I said, in that situation, I was a very shy person, so it's I wanted to be for myself. Today it would be otherwise. I would take it more curious. What's going on here? What's the situation here? And talking with people and see how to interact with people. So in this way, this personality has in a way changed by me, for me, so that I'm more interactive in a way. But I'm not a showman, so I'm not expressing everything to the outside. Also, this aspect to be for myself and in my own world is quite important for me. But I learned to balance it in a way.
I see that not only did you learn to balance, you've learned to take a break, you learned to pause, you learned to find goodness in adversities. You learned that life is not about just giving up. Life is about going ahead and finding new ways. Just stop and look around. And that's extremely motivating, extremely motivating. Is there any message that you would like to give to mental health community, like to say something to them, as well as people who are not mental health community? Because why are we restricting to just mental health community? I really want to hear what is the message that you would like to, what is it? There's so many people out there who don't want to, the first wrong thing that happens with them and they give up. The first wrong thing, and they are having tablets to and they're talking all kinds of stuff. Oh, this is the end of it. And I don't hear that from you.
So my answer is the end is first when you are dead. And this might be anywhere in the time, but until then, live your life that when this day will occur, that you're lying there satisfied. This was a really good life, which I have lived. I don't regret anything of this. Not good times, not bad times, was okay as it is. For this, it is important when your body is showing you something is not going the way that the balance is created as it should be. Come to have a talk with your inside, and if this does not work, take a good friend. It was so interesting from this girl from school time who told me about me a few of my person, which I've never seen so like this here. If you have a good friend, just have a talk about this, and don't be angry if your counterpart might be a little too honest. So it's not for to hurt you, it's only that even this person wants the best for you. And sometimes it's necessary to take the mirror and go around all the person and to see on these corners where you can't see yourself really, how you're interacting in a way. So there it's important to have some good friends who can tell you honestly, this is good, this is not so good. I've seen it in other situations also, and people depending on alcohol, that it was so important to have a good friend who is honest, and that's also important for acting yourself. If you have somebody in your near relations and you see something is going wrong, ask for it to have a cup of tea to talk something about and to express yourself, your feeling, what you see. I say, this makes me curious, this makes me sad in a way. I want to talk with you about this. This will help the person. Perhaps the person will not directly answer positively about this, but I think I can quite guarantee after some years, the person will be grateful for acting in this way. And I'm also grateful for the persons in my life who told me about some things in my life which I was not aware of, and which helped me to develop this way how I developed.
I feel very blessed, and I really feel honored that you could share this, and not just share this and keep it inside you forever, because I would have never known. I've been interacting with you for last 4 years now, but I didn't know any of this. I feel this is just a small step in knowing you better. We do businesses. Businesses are not about revenues. Businesses are about getting to know people. And if we don't know who's working and who is it that who's guiding us and what are their ideologies, how can we accept them? I really, really feel grateful. Yes.
This is very important, I think, and perhaps it's also something to think about when you're creating a business. Learn about your partners and co-workers in person. You will develop some qualities where you think, oh, that's amazing. And people will react in the positive in a way when their qualities are developed by other, discovered by other persons and addressed. So this will for sure create a better relation also if it is a business situation. Business is also a part of usual life. You cannot share between this to say in business I'm this person and privately I'm the other person. You will not stay alive in a way when you are switching in this way. You will develop two personalities, and that's not healthy for sure. So be the person who you are, be honest in a way, and don't avoid a conflict if it occurs. It's like a thunderstorm in the nature. Sometimes it's necessary, but after thunderstorm, usually the sun will come up again.
So I really want to thank you. And I wish I can talk to you again whenever you're ready. But
I think we will have the chance to talk soon in person in Stockholm, and I would be grateful to show you this city, which is meaning so much for me. Perhaps you will also learn a little more about me when you see this environment where I'm feeling happy and fine. And so because it's also expressing something of my person, where you are living when you can decide yourself where you are living.
You know, there's something common between you and me. And that's really interesting. As a child, I searched for my mother.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Mm.
And I didn't live with her. I
Yeah.
was separated from her at 6 years of age, six and
Yeah.
a half. And those were the times when you couldn't call up people easily and you couldn't talk to them easily.
Mm.
I did search for her, and that changed. And I think I'm searching, and so are you. And
Yeah.
maybe in that way, we two aliens from two different continents sit down together today. And maybe in our search, there can be many people who can connect to us and they can connect to their inner search. So thank
Yeah.
you very much. I'm really, really grateful. And I will catch up with you again.
Yeah, thank you very much for this wonderful interview. It was a pleasure for me to have this interview with you. Thank you.